So here's the actual end sound of what I've made. And I kind of wanted to walk you through the steps that I took because maybe you can help me be a little bit more clear on things that I shouldn't do or things that I should do. This will feel very Headhunterz style. I took in a lot of tutorials over the years and kind of pieced them together, and this is what I kind of got to at the end. Let's go ahead and start. You can see that there's 3 kicks here, right? The original, I would say the record, and then the final. Let's go ahead and move these over to here. We'll just start with what this sounds like. Pretty gnarly. If we open up the channel EQ and click on the right one here, you can see this is my chain. It looks pretty crazy. I know it's probably overkill for this, but I just wanted to show what I did. So let's go ahead and start from the beginning here. Bus 1. Or the main bus, really. This is the sound by itself. It's just a basic 909. Well, really an 808, but it's a 909. I'm using the drum synth inside of Logic, very simplistic plugin. I really like the parameters of it. You can really mess with it all you want. But the cool thing is you can also switch the pitch, which has been very helpful. I think right now this is set to G. Let me double check. It's set to F. The reason why it says that is because I have the sweep and shape on. The first thing that I did was I added just a basic EQ and took out some of the low end here. Then followed up by cutting the low end here. Now this won't really make much sense until we get to the distortion part. So let's go ahead and turn on the distortion. This is the clip distortion, the one thing that I've seen slowly start to fade away in these upcoming years with Trash being so well and other plugins. People are figuring out how to step away from Logic. I'm pretty clutched to the idea of what I have. I'm not a very big fan of third-party plugins, and so I kind of made all this with just everything inside of Logic. Let's go ahead and turn on the distortion. As you can see, it's driven all the way. We got the tone at 43 and the clip filter at 2000. The thing that's the most important is the symmetry. The symmetry inside of the clip distortion is really what gives the clip distortion its very interesting characteristics. With that being said, let's go ahead and turn it on. I'm going to apply a bit crusher. Bit crusher is kind of like how I get rid of things. Just chop it off at the head here. And as you can see, it's very distorted right off the bat. Let's go ahead and add in this EQ. Whoops. Now it doesn't really do much in the beginning part, but later it will do a lot more. The second thing that I've had, now I've seen everyone use the Oxford Inflatinator, multiple other plugins here. I'm going to use this speech enhancer. The speech enhancer is really cool because it's technically like an exciter, but it's not really meant for this. But it works really good. Gives it just a little more top end. Cool. Now that we got that, let's go ahead and go to bus 1, actually. Bus 1 is going to be right here. I honestly believe that once you get the distortion out of the way, like the actual just like gnar kick drum sound, this is where the bread and butter really kind of kicks into. Once again, I'm going to skip these 2 EQs because they're very important, and we're going to go straight to the distortion. The distortion is driven very hard, and I have the tone set at 68, and I have the clip filter all the way up. Yet again, I only have the mix at 50%. Let's go ahead and hear this now. It's distorted so hard that it has no characteristics whatsoever. Oop, actually, let me take this off. It's almost like got this weird sine wave kind of, or square wave kind of effect to it. Let's go ahead and add the EQ. The EQ, specifically the first and second EQ to the distortion. A lot of people don't even do that. Some people just go one EQ and then into a distortion. But this is the EQ that gives it the tone. There you go. We're starting to really get into that hardstyle setting. I'm going to go ahead and copy my setting here. And we can play with this between 400 to 1K and really get some interesting characteristics. cutting out the low end. I'm giving a little bit of that 100 boost, and I'm using 15.4 dB of gain on 720 hertz. Very, very Headhunterz. Like I said, this is compiled of a lot of tutorials, like from everywhere I could possibly find a tutorial, and 5 years of just trying and doing other experiments. Believe me, it's been night and day from my first kick to now. What? Got this EQ open now. I just boosted a little bit of the bass, and then I took out a significant amount of the mid-high here. Because I'm kind of that person that likes the tail more than the talk. I honestly believe that the tail is probably like my favorite part. I get really inspired by noise controllers. The Control-Alt-Delete kick was probably my favorite kick that I've ever heard in my life. And I just appreciate what they have done. So let's continue on. Yet again, I put another speech enhancer. It's just nothing more than a cheap exciter. Does a little bit. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear this on like basic speakers, but if you have headphones on, you'll be able to definitely hear a slight difference. Yet again, another distortion, fully driven, mixed down, kind of in the same ballpark as what it was before. Except for I took down the low pass filter this time because I want to start pulling some of the stuff away to be able to give it more characteristics. Next one, EQ. Just taking out the low end. I really want to shape the tail first and then kind of keep going. Control the low end, get a little bit more of that knock. Yet again, another cheap exciter. The exact same settings. Hit it with a little bit of reverb, like a little bit of reverb. Hey, never mind, it's about a second worth of reverb. I kind of forgot. The other one is the shorter reverb. If you're wondering what this plugin is, this is Logic 9. The same thing with the speech enhancer. You won't be able just to like look here. It doesn't show up. But if you go ahead and hold Option first and then click in the plugins, you get this legacy drop down. And this has all the old plugins from Logic 9, the ones that for some reason they took out but didn't. I don't know what or why they did that, but there they are. Continuing forward, yet again, just hit it with a bit crusher. Don't want it to clip. I don't want it to, actually clip the output quite yet. We'll get there later. Now to bus 2. Bus 2 is a little different because, as you can see here, I have no output. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the output. Look at the channel EQ. Just trimming the low, controlling the mid. And then I added a bit crusher for limiting. Okay, let's go ahead and take this out. This is where I start to actually like break the kick up into like a multi-band. I really enjoyed that idea from Headhunterz. And that was like the thing that was kind of like the aha moment when I started building more and more kicks, was like, why instead of just trying to get one kick drum, why don't I just break it up into multiple sections as long as it sounds good? This actually inspired me so much that now when I master other people's music, I break it up into the kind of 3 tracks, which if you want, self-promotion here, sorry everyone, I'd be more than happy to mix or master any of the tracks. I have many examples online, and just reach out to me if you want it. So let's go ahead and work on the low end here. So I've got my 3 buses here, and they're going to be summed to channel 21, but we're going to send them to the stereo output for right now, just so we can see how they're going. And we're going to listen to 10 by itself. If you don't have good headphones, you won't hear that. It's just low end. That's all it is. Nothing exciting. I have the linear phase EQ here because I want a bit more calculations when it comes to EQ. The channel EQ is amazing. And in my last tutorial, I explained that the channel EQ is horrible. It's not really the best EQ. It's actually really like dirty. A lot of my friends that use Ableton actually get mad at Logic because they just don't like the way the channel EQ sounds. It sounds dirty, it's not clean. And the linear phase EQ is a lot more cleaner, but it also takes up a little bit more CPU. So if you don't have the strongest computer, it's not gonna be the best idea. So let's continue forward here. I have the low pass filter on. Let me take these off real quick. And then as you can see, I'm just controlling the mid range. This is probably the part that I control the most. I'm kind of just terrified of it. And my saying is I would much rather have less bass that I can boost instead of having too much bass that I can't get rid of. That's kind of how I look at it. Other people look at it differently. They'd much rather have too much and then tame it. I'm kind of the opposite way, but everyone's to their own. Continuing forward, this is the mid-range now. Headphone warning. Real nasally. That's all it is. Got the linear phase at 200 and I got it at 2K. So if you look at my low pass linear phase, you can see that I have this at 250. So they're literally kind of bypassing each other where none of these frequencies are actually being, misplaced. They're all there. Going forward with the mid-range, this is where I start to drive the heck out of this thing. That's really distorted. Because that's where most of my tonality comes. I know for a fact this gain plugin, I was just checking mono. To see like if it would change the sound, didn't. And then I have a bit crusher here, just holding it all down so it doesn't blow up anybody's ears. And those together sound like this. So it doesn't really sound that great. So let's add the high end here. And you're like, where is it? Oh, it's there. It's just very quiet. What I have here is I have this pretty much taken off. I have the gate on it. This is another Headhunterz thing that I got inspired by. Just having that there. Raising the high end a little bit of it. Got my distortion here. And then, as you can see, I have a reverb here. That's what it sounds like. And that's all I want. So let's go ahead and put these all together now. And I don't really like the way the top end is, so I'm going to pull the dry down. I know I could just move this down, but I'll just do it in the plugin. This is kind of an interesting reverb because it's just giving the top end a little bit of tail here. Just a small bit. It's nothing exciting. So let's continue forward. Let's go and sum this to boss 20. And I'll just show you this. Excuse me. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and take all the plugins off. So once you're happy with the multiband, you kind of bring it back and just destroy it more. This is where you're going to start seeing actual characteristics and shape really come to life here. So let's start with the first EQ. Yet again, just changing the low end. Before, after. Doesn't really do that much, but it definitely affects in the long run, and it will definitely affect here. So let's turn this EQ on. Just so much more controlled. At least to me it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. It's definitely probably crazy. Yet again, added another distortion. This one's pretty thick, except for I don't have it very mixed in. It's pretty low. But it definitely helps a lot. Added another EQ here. This is where you're going to start seeing some like what they call surgical EQing, where it's very finite. I don't even know if that's a word, but we're going to say it. And then more surgical EQing here. There were two frequencies I didn't like. I didn't like this sound. So I just took it out. And how I do this, let me go ahead and just recall the default. Just go up like this. And find what you don't like. Like, that's nasty. And it just cleans up the sound a lot more. And there's another one here too. Yep, right there. I went back to my setting just because I've played with this for so long here. Continuing forward, adding another distortion. Oop, I'll let you guys see that. So these are the settings that I chose for this distortion. And then I added a little bit of a phaser. This is the smallest amount of phaser ever. And just changes the mid range just a little bit for me. And then one more EQ. And then to the last bus, the end bus, as I called it, where there are just some more plugins. Oh, in this gain, did nothing. And I think this Bit Crusher is just for limiting. Yep, just for limiting. Last EQ. It's just, it's like, it's so different right off the bat. Just like one plugin. Added a clip distortion, give it some more crunch. More EQ. And then I drive the heck out of this one because I wanted this sound. Boom, and that's that. So then what you want to do is you want to record it, right? Because we want to process it harder. So I recorded it out, and if we listen here, and I take these two plugins off, it's the same one. The only thing that sounds different is a little bit quieter because when I record out and then back into Logic. So I have this weird chain process. You can just hit Control B, but that's just the way I like doing it. I like recording stuff in. It just gives me more of a sense of, fulfillment. So I got these two plugins here. Just a little more bass, a little more EQing. And then I just love this sound. Driving the crap out of the thing. So then you bounce that again, and we have this sound. Whoop, let me take these plugins off. Yet again, same thing, just a little darker. But then I started processing this harder. So here we go. Yet again, more clip distortion. Which right there, that's the sound I want. That's what I want to hear on my kick drum. That tail. I love that sound. And then the EQ. I'm going to kind of screw it up to bring it back. Holding it down. More EQ. Really getting there. Couple more distortions here. This one's just touching it a little bit. That changed the sound a lot, but we'll bring it back here. Another distortion. Ooh, there it is. There's that crunchy tail that I really like. That's what I like to hear. Then we have another EQ. And now we go to Chrome Verb. Chrome Verb is awesome. I like it. I took a lot of the low end out. I just wanted to affect the top end. And usually this is like this. I boosted this one up like that. I didn't change these settings. Barely any decay, barely any distance. But if we listen to what it's doing, which when it comes to the resampling part of the kick drum, these sounds are going to be insane. We added the Chrome Verb and bring that back to 5 because that's where I like it. Woo! Sorry, I just, that sound. And then added a Bit Crusher. I drove the crap out of this one. Yeah. I freaking love hardstyle kicks. That's what I want to hear. And the thing that I've noticed the most about hardstyle kicks is the fact that when it gets down to the end of it, it is a creative process. So when you have someone that says, hey, that's not a hardstyle kick, don't listen to them. Just do whatever you want. It's art, music, unless you're like really focusing on like a specific type of kick, then yeah, take in the ideas. But I've spent 5 years of my life trying to learn how to make these kick drums, and I'm literally nowhere near anywhere that I want to be with my kick drum setup. But I thought I would just share this because I've been in a lot of the positions where like I'm watching tutorial after tutorial and it's like, well, here are the settings and we're going to skip these plugins, and then we're going to show you these settings and we're going to definitely skip these plugins because these have the candy to it. So anyways, this is how you make part 1 of a hardstyle kick. I love that sound. Thank you everybody for showing up and coming to check out this video. This is my progress on a kick drum. I wanted to show you it so we can learn together. That's the whole point of all my videos, is so we can all learn. And I just want to say thank you. If you can hit me with a subscribe or a like, that would be the coolest thing ever. Thank you.